Okay, so let's continue. So this time we will continue for 1.5 hours, okay, until 12 without break. So okay, I think you can see my screen here. This is a form called music XML. Okay, so this is a more complicated form. You can see why. For example, I want to encode this one note, C4, and this is what I will write in my program. But in MIDI, it's very easy, right? It's only I know it's a C4. It's maybe 60. I mean a MIDI number, and it's whole note, and it's it's like the 4 quarter notes, and this is maybe I only use 2 messages or even 1 message to present this. But if I use music XML, then everything just becomes crazily complicated. But there is definitely a good side of it, right? Representing it in this way. As you can see, it gives you division, gives you the sign, the octave, and everything. And there's more, okay? Because now I will only have one thing, one note. Let's see. Notation basics, whatever. So when you have a complicated score like this, you want to represent exactly what's appearing on your paper, on the sheet music into the computer notation software. This is what you will do. You will do a lot of extra work to make sure everything appears right in position. So one example would be this one. Okay, so this is in this music XML file, and then everything is appear, exactly the same as what you will say, right, in this piano book. I mean, if you play piano, I play piano when I was a kid. When I open the book, put it on the shelf of my computer, it looks exactly like this. Okay, this is what the composer will write and how the print industry will print, right? And this has all different kind of dynamic marks and the repetition mark, everything in place, and this everything. But it is a lot of effort to encode everything correctly. For us, because we are using a much simpler way, which is MIDI format, more efficient. I mean, in terms of encoding, for MIDI, everything matters is how it sounds like. Doesn't matter how it looks like. So if you encode this file, this maple leaf, back into MIDI, it will look like this. Doesn't have title, doesn't have author. So yeah, it keeps the original BPM and time signature, but it's not always the case. Okay, sometimes this will change, this will also change, and this will look very messy, very crazy, but it will sound the same. Okay, you can see it's a much plainer, I would say, cheap way of encoding, but it is a lot less bit and gives you more focused information, right? I mean, when I do music machine learning, all I care about is the pitch and duration, right? I don't care about the text. I don't care about where how the B, right, its position, how these different marks are placed, and etc. So I hope this gives you a better explanation of this. And definitely there are also like other types of notation, like ABC notation, if you know, for symbolic music. So I mean we don't choose MIDI like randomly in this workshop or in this work. There should be a comparison between different formats of encoding. Then finally, in terms of your own purpose, you choose one type of things. We choose MIDI because it fits our purpose well for data processing, and it encodes everything I need to generate music, and it's very convenient, it's efficient, and it's a compressed file. Okay, so whatever, let's continue with the topic of music data processing. Okay, I will leave more detail of the neural network to tomorrow, but now let's do something like new, okay, different from last year. So this is something new. So after we generated music like this, we have kind of different questions. Okay. So there will be some questions were addressed in the chat, like in the beginning, and some actually people will think about this, but I don't know. Okay, so let me see it in this way. So someone mentioned this BPM thing or tempo thing, right? And we also talk about like how do you encode the different time in MIDI. Okay, so we have 3 different units, a MIDI, and when we deal with the sheet music, or when I design my neural network, the duration I use is the quarter note duration. Okay, so so in this thing, right? When I talk about duration list here, I use the unit as quarter note. So 1 is 30 seconds, 2 is 60, 4 is eighth, and this is some dotted eighth. This is dotted eighth or whatever, and this is the quarter, right? Etc. So the unit I choose is the sheet music time, which is the quarter, and this is the easiest way to represent the sheet music, right? Because this is what you see in the music score. Okay, directly what's in your eyes is the quarter note and the pitch, of course. Replace computations in an application that will work live, some latency, of course, like detect notes that are played by a musician. Okay. I don't think it's impossible. Actually, it's a active research field. It's not that easy to do actually, because this kind of interaction, human computer co-creativity, is actually an active topic now in research by the Professor Shlomo Dubnov. Actually, yeah, so he's a faculty of our like UC San Diego computer music, and he also cooperated with EarCam. I don't know if you know EarCam, like in Paris. So this is a very active research field, but I don't think we really have a good solution for now. It's not only about computation. Okay, it's not only about computation, and computation is something you can solve. I mean, you can even hire someone to solve it, right? If you pay them. But the thing is that how do you interact with human? You using your computer, right? Like your human input something, like computer need to respond live, right? Then it has to analyze the data live. So for my generation, my neural network is I train it pre-hand, right? I train it for like maybe, I mean, for this system, it's easy. I only train it for a few hours, but for a large system, I mean, I use train it days, weeks, and after I trained everything, I set the parameter there, and then I use it to generate. But if you involve human inside, you need to do this analysis live. It's not generating live. It doesn't take a lot of effort. So you can see how quick I generate, right? I use my notebook here. I just input some notes and I click, okay, generate function. It only takes a few milliseconds to generate, 100 notes. But if you do it live, if you require it to take the human input in live and do analysis and then generate, and you also don't want the latency to be too large, right? You don't say, okay, my human performer did this thing, and after 10 seconds, my computer realized, oh, this is what I should do. You don't want something like that. So the more important thing is like, how do you make it like really available, make the training available? Because training is never for real time. Okay, neural network is not a real time thing. So I think there are different ways to approach this. I mean, maybe you can use some pre-trained model, and on live you just train it very roughly or very quick, find a way to just very roughly tune this thing and make the latency kind of shorter, but it requires more efforts into that, really. So, well, I think there should be something already active, maybe for industry, for things, but it's not that easy. At least so far, like, I don't think there's any mature kind of technique of this that people can use, you know. Yes, yes. I mean, you can search for this. Yeah, I can also look into this if possible. I don't think they really have any paper published because it's really not. It's a field of research now, but it's not something already have any product. So they have this interactive system in Earcam called Somax, right? Omax and Somax. That's actually pretty quick because you have this either you have pre-trained corpus, you have pre-trained things. Like I pre-train those things and I pre-generate this. And on live, I just make a cursor and select like which part I play. But that is not like what you are referring to, I believe. Okay, great question. It's really something people should think about. Yeah, and I believe like people are thinking about this. It's just not realized yet. Okay, thank you. Okay, where are we? Like let's get back to the challenge of time. Okay, so as I said, when I use the corpus like this, when you use any kind of sheet music, the first thing like you think about duration is to use this quarter length, or quarter notes, half notes, eighth note, whatever, etc. So let's see what's the problem of this. So I want you to look into this score. So this score is what we just used like in this workshop multiple times. Let me play this. Okay, so now I pull out another score like this. So when you read this, how do you feel about this score? Do you feel it's much different from the first one? Or you feel it's the kind of similar things? Okay, but so let me play this. So it's really much slower. I mean, so I think the idea is pretty easy here. So if I remove this thing, because I hide the BPM, so that you can see that if I don't have BPM, the two score actually look pretty similar. You probably don't want to tell the difference of them. You will say, okay, so when for example, I'm the neural network, when I see a score like this, and when I see a score like this, I will see, okay, they kind of, similar, they have similar note durations, similar note range, right? And I will probably mix these two patterns together because they are too close to each other. Like mostly 16th note, and the range are similar to each other. But when I play this, yes. So, but when I play this, when a human's listening to this, it's very different because of the BPM, right? So actually, we didn't really encode the BPM in this in my previous design of neural network. Actually, what I did there is actually I unified the BPM. I choose the corpus kind of similar BPM around 80, maybe 60 to 6, maybe like 70 to 90, around 80, and I say, okay, I'm putting everything, I'm treating everything as 60 BPM, and I use just this unified BPM, but it's not always the case, right? And we know the BPM actually has a lot of influence on how we perceive music. I mean, if I play this thing at a kind of a BPM at 80, it will sound pretty different. Okay, so let me do this. Oh no. Seems I closed this thing. Okay, let me open this one. Okay, so this is our score of 45 BPM. Okay, so now let me change this BPM here. Actually I can do this right here. Let me put 80. Okay. So actually now it's changed to 80 already. Okay. Let me play this. Well, so it may sound okay in this circumstance, but in general, if you change a music's BPM, like if you change something slow to quick, quick to slow, it actually change a lot of the property of the music. And also, I mean, a composer, right? He choose a certain BPM for his composition, for their composition for a certain purpose. There is a reason, right, for them why it is a BPM 45, why another one is BPM like 100. So if you are a data scientist, if you change this randomly, if you say, I say, okay, I don't care, I just ignore this information, that will cause a lot of problem, in this generative system, because we want to reflect the music property as precise as possible. Then how to deal with this? I thought of this, how to deal with this in the neural network, in the training system. Yeah, let's just think together.
Add new learning point so that it also account the BPM of the original score, like when you're training the data set.
So you mean adding the BPM as another information to input
Yep.
in the neural
Yes.
network?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. That's definitely add a parameter. Okay. Yes. Very good. I mean, okay, that's one way of doing this. But I think, but the problem is that, I mean, it depends on the structure of neural network, actually. The neural network, how it works, I mean, this is why we need people like to understand the neural network before they do data processing, right? So neural network is designed as this. So you definitely can add another parameter. Let's say, okay, I'm inputting my 600 nodes here, right? Let me do this. So let's see, in this thing, I have 600 nodes as my input, and I have another thing, I say it's a vector, which is my BPM. Okay. Maybe for another corpus, I have maybe 1,600 nodes, and I have another BPM. So although we say that neural network is a black box, but it's actually not. I mean, it has this principle, right? It's designed as these functions. And when you do this training, there is definitely a kind of scaling problem. So how do you make sure your computer will understand this BPM as something that can be applied to every node here? Okay. So this is a problem. I mean, of course, one thing is that you can say, okay, I can add BPM. I can append something, right, to every node. So this is my node of one hot vector, and I can append something. I can see my BPM is 80. I can see 80 here, and every node, I append this 80 here. And here, for every node, I append maybe my BPM here is 45. Well, this is a way of doing that. Yes. Yes, it is a way of doing that. Then you need to restrict this somehow. Okay, I never, yeah, I didn't thought about this. If you do it in this way, and when you generate, you want to make sure that everything generated is of the same BPM. Okay, 45. Yes, this will be a way. Well, very good. I didn't even thought about this before. Well, it's a good way. It's a good way. I mean, appending one parameter to the end of each node is workable because I make sure that this BPM is encoded to every node. But if I don't do this, if I have this 600 node and my BPM, I separate information, which means I only have one vector here, and then my neural network won't be able to figure out by himself, by itself, okay, that this BPM is actually work on every node here. Okay, so you have to find a way to make the computer understand. It's not like, oh, I have this information, I just put them randomly, like everything fit into the neural network and it will understand. It's not like that. That's why like designing is important. Like when you design, you think about, oh, okay, how I help my computer understand, comprehend the concept. Like also like when we use the bit level, it's also an additional information for computer to comprehend this information. Okay. So this is one, yeah, it's definitely one way of resolving this problem. Another way is to use real life time, right? Use seconds, because when we talk about music, we talk about auditory perception mostly. We don't necessarily have to obey how the score was designed, right? So when you listen to this thing, every note is quicker. When you listen to this, every note is slower. Then we can just use seconds or milliseconds to encode this. Then this is a precise time that we perceive, right? And this is the time if we input this kind of type of time into the computer, and then this information will be consistent. Okay, I basically resolve this inconsistency when I use this quarter length only. So this is a way of doing it. This is a challenge of time of doing this. Then if you use seconds or milliseconds into this type of things, then one thing you will face, right? There will be one problem. Anyone can think about this? If I change the duration from quarter length to seconds.
Time signature and the length of the notes. No?
Yes, time signature will be a problem, yes. But I mean, when we generate this, I mean, there are two kind of concepts. Like one is like you really want to generate some score that people can read. One is generate something people can listen to. There are two different concepts, right? So time signature is basically for people to read the score. For listening, auditory, maybe like if I'm a not trained musician, or if I'm just listening to some music, maybe I don't care about time signature at all. I only care about how the music sounds like to me. right? I mean, you don't need to tell me like what time signature it is. I don't care. I mean, time signature is only there in this notational music because I want to give a precise presentation of it, especially if the composer use the time signature. Yeah, that's how the score was like. So,
but for example, when we're generating and in real time and precise time, it says it should be like 37 milliseconds. What the note length we will choose? Like, is it the quarter or it's the 16? Like, we might not have such a division of note, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's about the category, right? So because previously when we do this neural network, we have this category. Category means like how many like division we have, right? So here we only have kind of like 10 divisions, like less than 10 divisions. If we okay, so this is my duration. All the duration category I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, yeah, 10 divisions. Then if I have different BPMs, I have different time, right, seconds, then this will be enlarged, will be expanded like numerously. So I probably have to design maybe 1,000 different categories, right? Then I can encode the time, the seconds or milliseconds, kind of precisely matching to my real time. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. This is the concern of this. So if we use this real life time, it kind of break the original kind of gravity or concise or something like simple, because we want something simple. We don't want something like really cumbersome and this difficult to train, difficult to deal with even. But if we take the BPM into consideration, if we use the real life time, we need to devise a new mechanism, right, to encode the time. We cannot use this type of encoding anymore. We need a new system that we can interpret the time in the real life kind of time unit, like seconds, milliseconds, and then we in this kind of new structure, we can then start talking about the duration, right? So this is something it seems we have to abandon in this circumstance. So one thing is BPM, and another thing is also here. So let me play this thing for another time. Okay, so this is the MIDI file, and this is computer generated the sound based on the MIDI file. Oh. Okay, so let me stop here. Now let's listen to the real performer, the human performer, how the music will sound, played by a real performer. Maybe stop here. What difference did you notice in these two, like, different listening?
Time is quicker and slower.
Yes. He diverges from grid. Yes. So when you use computer, like this kind of score generated thing is always mechanical, right? It's everything on the grid, everything just very mechanical. But when you have a real performer, I mean, the time can be changed, and also the dynamics, right? There's a lot of dynamics, a lot of kind of expressive expressions in this performance. So then the question is, like, what type of music we want to generate? So what we want to generate some score like we can read, or we want to generate something we can listen to directly. So I guess the answer will more towards tends to be the second one, right? We want to generate something that we can immediately listen to, instead of we generate some score and we hire some human performer to interpret this score by them. I mean, if we do this process, then we can just ask the performer to improvise, right? We don't need the score anymore because we are mostly rely on the performer's performance then, instead of our generative system. But because we want our generative system be able to generate something we can immediately listen to, and this is some music we can immediately understand. Okay, instead of I generate something and I give it to human, and human just play this for me. So we want to kind of skip this process, and we want to generate something more powerful that has more like expressivity compared to our previous example. So the first challenge of time, right? So we consider BPM, we consider the real life time, and also expressive time, like expressive micro timing. If we call it, right? It's very important in music expressivity, especially for our auditory experience of music. That's first challenge. So the second challenge is polyphony. So we know that so in my previous generation, right, we can only generate monophonic music. But we know most music are polyphony or homophony, which means you don't only have one line, right? I mean, even for the solo cello, so this is another piece of the Bach solo cello. So even if it's a solo cello, there is still like harmony. Okay, there are not like a lot of, there are not like two lines of melody, like counterpoint, right? It's not like counterpoint, like two lines playing together, but at least there will be some harmony, which makes this polyphonic, which makes the texture like more like colorful, right? So I think we can listen to this. It's here. Okay, so in this music, the main melody is still one line, right? Because it's played on a solo cello. But there will always accompaniment and harmony there, which makes it makes the texture just richer. And also, I mean, for cello, you only have one hand to play. That's why you only have one kind of main melody. But another type of instrument, we also use most often in these corpus and symbolic music, classical music, is piano. When you play piano, you have two hands, right? So which means you can make it more like polyphonic. You can play two different lines, using your left and right hand. For example, in this one, maple leaf. Okay, let me play this thing. Okay, so this music is even richer, and it has more notes, simultaneous notes together, like 5 notes together. And then you can not only play, chords, harmony, you can also devise different kind of, melodies by both hands, and all kinds of more kind of complex, more complex music, using this polyphonic structure. So this is a really like important thing to think about, and it also bothers the researchers for decades, I would say, how to generate polyphonic music. So okay, I'll give you 3 minutes to think about this. I mean, you can type in the chat or think, and like how will you approach this problem of polyphonic music generation? How will you generate, polyphonic music? I'll give you maybe 2 minutes of thinking. Okay, and then we can discuss this. This will be a really interesting problem, and just test like how smart you can be. I mean, this is a real problem that bothers the researchers for at least 20 years already. So, okay, see you in 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, I saw some answer already here. Okay, we can encode the chords as notes among C1, D1, it could be C1 major and so on. Yes, this is one way that researcher tried. Yes. So there were some arguments that people asking, like in classical music, the unit for music is what? I mean, the unit for music is note or chord. So for most musicians, they will say, okay, the chord will be the foundational thing for a music instead of note. I mean, especially if you play jazz, right? Most it's on chord progression, but not like specific notes. And also when you play music, mostly you are thinking about is the chord, like which chord the is for this bar, instead of notes like one after another. So yeah, so if you encode the chord as one identity, and then you input them still into this kind of recurrent neural network, then it will generate something. Yes. So but what's the problem? Do you have, if you think about this, did you notice anything, any problem, or you just think this just works perfectly? Okay, so think about this. I think the idea is that, but how many notes are there in one chord? But because when you generate a chord, basically you still need to represent these as notes. So, for example, in our corpus here, like sometimes it has 3 notes, sometimes only like 1, sometimes 2 even. Like for example, this maple and reg. Sometimes you have like with 5 simultaneous notes, sometimes 4. So the note number is not determined. If you think about chord, if you generate chords like one after another, then you still need to determine like what notes are presented. And in terms of what note presented, you also need to consider the lines of the melody. So if you decompose this to one chord, then, but there is still like internal like melodies, right? There will be basically 2 kind of melodies happening here. You also have to make sure not only horizontally, but not only vertically, but also horizontally. For maybe we have 2 lines here. In some corpus, it has 3 lines, right? Maybe I shouldn't do this. Like here, we have 3 lines. Then you need to consider or make sure these lines, right? They are consistent. The first line, these are consistent. It's not like I'm generating everything, the chords, like one by one. There are more like to consider instead of the chord concatenation and also different lines, the melodic concatenation. Any other thought? Chords have inversions. What does it? I mean, I understand inversions, but how will you use inversions in this generative system? Okay, so such problem, yes. So I mean, it's okay for you. I mean, chord is a general kind of annotation for this kind of thing. But in terms of generative system, you have to generate specific notes. And another problem of chord generation is that for each chord, for each note, it doesn't necessarily last for same length. Okay, for example, here. So for example, I generate a chord of this one, but this note actually maybe lasts for 2 of the notes. Okay, this is not a good example. Let me find another thing. Maybe here. Okay, so this note is a quarter note, right? And then when I'm playing this chord, it accompanies this 1, 2, 3 identities. Then how do you encode this? One way is that, okay, I will make 3 copies of the same note because it accompanies the 3 things. And then I can make them just together like 1, 2, 3, this 1, 2, 3, this 1, 2, 3, 4. But there will also be some problem because this thing, we know the a note or instrument when you play this, as the onset is the strongest, right? And then as time went by, it's kind of attenuated. So at the last position, if you encode this as 1, 2, 3, 4 notes, it doesn't really take that kind of effect as the first one. How do you encode that kind of effect? 5 RN playing together. Okay, so if you train like different lines using different RNN, then you need to design a system to interact between the RNNs. You cannot make them separately playing the same time. It's like maybe like the the bands or the musicians playing together. Like, you know, maybe I have 3 musicians, they play together, then they need to time to coordinate with each other. They can also just say, okay, I play my part, you play your part. We just don't communicate. That's impossible. Okay, it's called collective improvisation, where the musicians have to improvise collectively, which means they need to communicate using their music and making sure the music will be integral thing, right? Especially if they play together simultaneously. So it's a really good thought of using chords to generate music, to encode the music, and many researchers have tried that. I have I have read like many papers on this, how they design this system, and sometimes some people, like what I said, they choose to make copies of this chord, right? Like for how long it lasts, I will just make copies. And then I say, okay, when this happens, this also happens, then there are 4 simultaneous notes. It is one way. But this kind of system always have kind of problems, you know, if you really consider the real life situation. It doesn't really always work, but it's a research theme. Many people tried, I have to say. Yeah, so this is definitely a good attempt to do that. But we basically won't follow this convention because for me, from my analysis, it doesn't really work, especially in terms of listening. Because now, let's say, we are focused more on listening experience, okay, than our sightseeing experience. For sightseeing, it's definitely okay. It makes sense to make copies, right? Because when I read the score, I understand, okay, this is an 8th note. It lasts 2 16th notes, it lasts 2 6th notes. So for sightseeing, I would say, okay, I make copies of this and then it works. But in terms of listening, I know at the onset of this, it is the strongest. So in terms of listening, I would rather encode this is the 16th, this is 16, this is 16, 16th. Is like instead of making the 4 notes simultaneously. So this is a kind of artistic choice of what aspect of music you are more focusing on, and your purpose of what you want to generate, and based on your goal, like what you want to generate, how would you design your system? Okay. So this is another challenge, like what we can deal with polyphonic textures. Another challenge is control. What does it mean? Is that actually in MIDI, because so far we only talk about the nodes, like when we talk about generation, and most people, when they do this music generative system, they only care about nodes, like what you can see, right, directly in this corpus, and what you will do, like most prominent features, note value, duration, maybe dynamic or something, right? That's related to the note. But there is another very important information in MIDI file, which is barely used in generative system, which is the control message. So what is control message? I think we have enough time to talk about this topic today. Okay, so this is control. So control is another event in this MIDI format. Okay, so if you read this MIDI format, this file, you can find the control somewhere. Okay, okay, whatever. But control is one event that's encoded in this MIDI file because it helps the computer to interpret the music. But the thing is that this information is barely used in generative system. It's basically just get discarded like everything else, right? Like key signature, time signature, you barely use them in generative system. And control, so this is a file for MIDI control. Okay, so you can read the file. What the control does is basically some pedal volume, balance, pen, expression, effect, and yeah, sound controller, things like that. I mean, if you deal with this kind of, audio device, MIDI device, you have a better understanding of this than me. So control is actually pretty important in terms of listening experience, right? So something with control and without control will sound differently to our ears. So that means when you discard this information, this naturally incurs some problem in music generation. So there are some example, like 1 means modulation, 7 controls volume, 10 controls pen, 11 and 60, 70, 64, 70, 67, sorry, which is the thin pedal and soft pedal. And also something like reverberation, chorus, etc. So this information are usually discarded because it's difficult to incorporate these. Second, even if I know there's such information, how can I encode that into my notes or into my input and make the computer understand what's happening in this control message? This is always a problem. So first, let's do this, run this code to extract the control message in this file. So you can see there are basically 7 and 10. Okay, basically 7 and 10. 7 is the volume, 10 is the pen. Okay. So the immediate music generation and control values are often ignored. In certain cases, such as the example we use, the term could be safely ignored without much influence. Well, if you think about volume and pen, I mean, it doesn't really influence much in terms of generation. I mean, after you generate the notes, it doesn't really affect that much of your listening experience. That's what I mean. However, we will instantiate this that this is not always true, which highlights the significance of getting hands-on raw data. Okay. So for this file, okay, this solo shallow file, the control doesn't matter. We can only use the note value, okay, the note related properties to kind of will regenerate these corpus. But for another file or some other files, this is not the case. So the example we'll use is this song. Okay, I think I have this song. Somewhere. Okay, should be this one. Okay, so it looks very messy in this Muse score. Let me play this. How do you feel about this this song? This music?
It sounds like generated music.
Generated music. Actually, it is not. Yeah, it is a very standard composition composed by famous composer. And yeah, it's a classical music. And it's even included in some competition, right? Piano competition. So why it sounds that bad? Anyone can just give a guess. Oh, sorry. Deconstructing neoclassical. Okay. Why it sounds that bad? Any guess? Any thought? Like why? Okay, very well. So so this is the file I just opened, right? This is the file we just listened to. So let me
sorry, I
please.
think the computer didn't understand. He didn't know anything about partitions of two hands, maybe. So there are no dividing for partitions of two hands for human perception.
I see what you mean. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I see what you mean. Like, because if we have two hands, we have two channels. Usually, you encode this left and right hand to two channels in this MIDI track. But here we can basically see that actually this is divided in two tracks. Yeah, if it's one track, then it will be on only one line. So, yeah, it's a good guess, but it's not really the reason. I mean, maybe you feel there is a relative like velocity or dynamic between the left and right hand. Maybe the left hand will be quieter and the right hand more prominent. Then you have more focus on this kind of listening. This will be a problem. Yes, that's a problem of the lack of velocity. But actually, I think there is a velocity here. Let me look into the file. Okay, so this is a file. Let me process this. So you can see there is actually, yes, there are velocity, right? So now we have varied velocity here. It's not like 100 anymore, not constant anymore. And you can see this is a really famous piece, and probably even it's called this Angelo something. Yeah, it's even in the 2006 International Piano in Competition. And St. Paul, Minnesota played this in Yamaha piano. So it's a famous piece. Why it sounds that bad? Okay, so I'll tell you why. So now let me open this Ableton Live. Anyone use Ableton Live here? Okay, I mean it is a paid software. So yes, thanks. So even if you don't use it, it doesn't matter. So you have to subscribe to it. It's not free. So I understand if some people don't want to use this software. But let me just import this file. Okay, import the same MIDI file into this thing. This will be in my workshop. Okay, so this is our file. Okay, so this is how it looks like in the as piano roll. Okay, this is the velocity with varied velocity, and this is the how the piano roll looks like. So in order to play this, we also need to add an instrument. Okay, if we do it now, there will be no sound because we don't have instruments. So you have to pick your instrument to play this thing. Let me search for.
I have a guess. Maybe
Yes.
because it used precise time inside MIDI file. No?
Okay, so you mean immediate? Oh, can you say it again? Sorry.
In MIDI file, it used precise time instead of division, like proper division. It's just say, okay, here note starts, here it ends, using milliseconds, for example.
Actually, in MIDI file, yes, it actually uses the computer time. It tells you like where it starts, where it ends. Let's look into this more. Okay, so this is the time, the onsite. You can see the time is actually much more irregular comparing to our previous well-encoded file. Okay, so the file here, you can see the onsite. They're always like very regular integer numbers, right? And very regular duration. Because this file is very well encoded as the sheet music. So the duration is fixed. It uses this, you know, on everything is right on grid. But here, in this thing, yes, it's more like flexible, and the onside is not regular. And here you can see the velocity is the same. It's 100. It's constant. But in this example, it's not the case anymore. Right, you have varied velocity, and the time onset is more kind of you know, irregular. You can have any duration, any time. And yes, I think your guess is like when I import this kind of file, you know, with this very random or flexible onsite to this thing, it's kind of quantized, right? Yes, yes, this is a very good guess, and this is one of the reasons, part of the reason why it sounds that bad, because yeah, as I said, if you use this music score, it kind of automatically so it guesses what's best for you, so it will you know, quantize it when I import the file. So it is part of the reason why it doesn't sound that good, because it's when it quantizes it to the grid, and it's kind of, you know, yeah, interferes with the original structure. This is part of the reason, but it's not the main reason. I'll show you why. I'll demonstrate this to you why this is not the main reason. But very good guess. It is part of the reason. And sometimes yeah, I mean, this is why people have to be careful with using this kind of software, because it's quantized for you, it's BPM'd for you, it's doing everything for you. That's just kind of destroys things sometimes. And if you don't know, you didn't even aware of what the computer is doing. So okay, so let me continue with this thing. It's in Chinese. Okay, so this is the grand piano I'm going to use, I think. Oh, it's not the. Sorry. Should be this one. Right? Nice piano sound. Drag here. Okay, now we are able to play this music. Okay, so how do you feel about this time?
Sound good.
Yes, yeah, sounds good. Sounds much better, much natural, I would say. So why does it happen? I'll show you why. So if you go to this place and you go to MIDI control, okay, so we talk about control message, right? So how do you find the control message? In Ableton Live, you go here and you click MIDI control, and then here it shows every control. It's all the control message from 1 to 119. Okay, it's all the control is encoded in this MIDI file. And we can see there's some 7 channel volume. Doesn't really matter because it's constant. And what else does it use? Sustain pedal, soft pedal. So what really work here is this sustain pedal. You know, because when I play this in this mute score, because mute score doesn't recognize control message. So this is a problem. So this is a problem of the mute score, and also the problem of many data processing, data processing thing happening for music generation, because you just ignore control message. You don't have control message. That's why your music is just sounds so bad. So mute score doesn't recognize control message, and then when I play this, it doesn't eliminate all the message here, okay, of MIDI control. But this system pedal is actually very, very important. So you can see this is, if I zoom in, right, there's a lot of pedal here. So if I play this thing, okay. So how do I demonstrate that the system pedal or the control message is the main reason why it sounds so bad, but not the quantization? So this is what I can do. Then I will just use data processing. So here I imported my file here, and then I read my file, I write it to the data frame, everything same as before. I extract the control message. And now what I will do, I will drop this control message, which means I will delete all the control message from my MIDI file. But everything else will be the same. The timing and the velocity and everything else will be the same, but we are just deleting all the control message here. So I will see df.drop. I drop the control message, and this is my data frame. Okay, it originally has 1022 rows. Now it only have 815 rows because I just deleted all the control message. And now let me write my data frame to CSV and write CSV back to MIDI. Okay, and I generated this to my desktop, and now we can listen to it. Okay, so now let me import this no control is what I just generated. Okay, so it actually it looks the same. Okay, the score look the same, right? Okay. So, but in this file, there's no control. Okay, the MIDI control is just blank. There's no control here. So let's listen to this one without control. Right. So I think it sounds a little bit better than this one, than this mute score one. But it's still like sounds random, like random notes playing. Doesn't really make a kind of composition. Let me play this one again. Okay. Maybe let me play the original one again. Yeah, the original file with the control information. Okay. So I think it at least demonstrated how important the control messages are. Okay. And I mean, this is a really important kind of problem because imagine this. So you are inputting some kind of training data and you call it music into your computer, right? Into your neural network, and you tell the neural network, okay, this is the music I want you to generate. And the computer generates something that you think it doesn't sound good, it's random, and you see, okay, this neural network doesn't work, the system that is broken. But the problem is that the original data, right, you provide to the computer is problematic. I mean, you are providing this kind of data, right, into your computer, and you tell your computer, okay, generate something good for me. So this is impossible. So sometimes it's also a kind of problem for the engineer. Sometimes you have some problem of the final result, and you think maybe this is problem of my designing, of my computation, of the process of this and that. But maybe the problem is from the original material, right? When you don't have a good data set, when you input something bad to your computer, to a system, and you can never expect it to generate something good for you. So this is also highlights like why it is so important to process data properly. Okay, so as we see, like maybe nowadays, sometimes just the download data set from the some website, some pre-processed data processed by other people, and you just use that data, but you don't know how they process it and how they perceive the problem and what information they discarded. And it happens all the time, like in terms of data processing and also in terms of neural network designing. So my practice is that I always do things myself. And I think this is the safest way for me to understand everything what's going on in this workflow, so that I know if something happened, if something is wrong, I can just find where it went wrong and how to fix it. But if I use some pre-processed data by other people, maybe in this CSV file or in the pandas, then I don't know what the original data looks like, and I don't know what information they discarded, and I cannot. There's no guarantee for the quality of the dataset. Okay. So that processing. So this is the example. Okay, I just showed you without pedal and with pedal. Okay, we just listen to this. So tomorrow we will continue with this topic, and we will talk about how to generate expressive music. Okay. Actually, the final result is not that good because I didn't finish the training cycle. But I think the idea is quite clear. I mean, if I have more time, I will continue working on that. The current training doesn't really converge. But I think the idea is much like if me or someone else put more effort into this process, I believe, you can generate like much more expressive music than what we did last year. Okay, I think this already like late nights in your time, right? What time is there?